Well, Bill, it is so nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us a little bit about your organization.
Yeah, so OrthoNebraska, we're a musculoskeletal health system. So what that means is we have, obviously orthopedic clinic, but then we have the full continuum as for the musculoskeletal realm. So ER, orthopedic urgent care, which is a newer service for us that's a bit of an emerging thing in the past 10 years, physical therapy and imaging, everything we need to kind of take care of the full patient, episodic orthopedics.
And tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at OrthoNebraska.
Yeah, so at OrthoNebraska, I'm a digital strategy leader, so I end up sort of sitting at the intersection of marketing and IT and use, I like to think of myself as a translator at times of, hey, here's the business need, here's the technology, how can we marry things up and, make compromises on either side and get to where we need to go. And so what that looks like, more tangibly is I end up managing our digital transformation projects. So online scheduling or CRM or patient education systems that are digital. So those are the things that I love to be a change agent and bring new things to the table.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. And I think digital transformation right now has so much potential. So how do you prioritize thinking about digital transformation in your role? There's so many different things that you could do. And now with the advent of AI, it's just gotten incredibly exciting, but also very complex. So how do you think about digital transformation in the space that you're in?
So we're very KPI driven, and so what this means for us, I would say, is it's a little bit of how OrthoNebraska sits in the marketplace too, right? So we are a independent orthopedic group, so we're not being affiliated with any of the major health systems. We have to work, I would say, extra hard to keep going, and so what happens from an access perspective, that's really, we have very, very much decided we have to differentiate on access. And so that's where online scheduling comes in, that's where the orthopedic urgent care comes in, that's where another new project we did recently is asynchronous Ask Ortho sort of injury triage chat. So those things and making it, we call it pressing the easy button. Making it easier for people to find us and less friction on actually getting them in the door is a big focus for us. And so any of the KPIs that we try to impact with that, it ends up being a lot of access and patient experience KPIs. We're probably not alone in this, but a lot of our if we get negative comments, which are rare, but if we get negative patient comments, it's typically it took me, I would have loved to get in sooner. So we try to really minimize those to the best we can.
Well, I think that's great. I think the expectation that patients have with their healthcare ecosystem should be no different than what they're experiencing in other parts of their consumer lives, right? I think that's awesome. When you think about the digital transformation, especially the work that you're doing, thinking through some of the challenges around change management and governance, and really thinking about how do you go from an idea and an approach and putting something in place to actual adoption and making sure all the different cast of characters that need to be involved. How do you deal with all that?
Yeah, I think for us and what I found to be successful, a lot of it is creating alignment between the physician, the operational teams that are impacted, and not forgetting about the patient. I am a huge advocate for getting the patient side of things and exposing them to ideas. It doesn't have to be super formal. It doesn't have to be a complete random sampling of patients that you're surveying or anything like that, but just having some element of that is really important. On the physician side, I think the physicians tend to be the ones who can help work through some of the harder decisions you might have to make throughout the process, because there will be there'll be trade-offs. And then the operational team needs, especially if they're going to be impacted, obviously, need to feel like they have some level of input and buy-in on the change, or else it's not going to be successful.
So then going from the actual projects themselves to measuring the impact of those so that you can look at your key performance indicators and know that you're going in the right direction. How do you collaborate with folks on the team to measure that, or how does that process unfold in order to make sure that we're investing in the things that are actually working. And as they say, if something isn't working, you stop it quickly so that you can move on to the next idea.
Yeah, we talk about failing fast, right? Like
Yeah,
that's what we want to do. I wouldn't say we're always successful at that, but we try. At OrthoNebraska, we every year go through a project planning methodology, and we run we do six-week sprints throughout the year. We don't always keep to those 6 weeks, but that's the general outline, right? And then we go through the DMAIC project planning process. So define, measure, implement, and then measure again, basically at the end, to understand if it was successful. So I think by sticking true to that process, it helps us, A, not have tunnel vision, and B, get locked in on a solution that, maybe one stakeholder really loves, but isn't going to meet the overall needs of the organization best. So really aligning around what are we actually trying to measure, what does success mean for this project, and then coming out on the other end with, hey, it worked or it didn't. And honestly, most of them, it's not that binary, right? It's mostly like, well, these pieces are going well, these pieces not so well. Is there further uplift that we can address the pieces that aren't going so well, or is it just scrap it and move on to the next project?
So Bill, that's very, very interesting. I mean, from the governance point of view, there's an absolute need for you to sort of grow in a meaningful way within your community, given the independent nature that you all have. How are you thinking through the interoperability or the needs to sort of communicate in order to give the patients an experience that might be integrated when they go and see primary care perhaps at another facility, but come to your facility for orthopedics? How are you thinking through that?
Yeah, I think it's making those additional investments in those handoff processes becomes a little bit more important. As you can imagine, a lot of our referrals are more community-based. We do get some from the larger health systems, but a lot of that's patient-driven. We do a lot of, we believe that with our position in the marketplace, that we need to do more direct-to-consumer marketing than other, let's call it like organizations or other specialty organizations might need to. We believe orthopedics is very patient-driven and very word-of-mouth driven. We don't require referrals, for instance, for any of our to see any of our physicians. So that makes it a little bit easier, reduces that friction on the front end, but we do have to take extra steps to make sure that we're following up with those primary care physicians, having clean handoffs. Our physicians are phenomenal, I will say, at building those relationships, and they do it a little bit each in their own way, but we try to support them if they want to, have a system of, sending thank you letters or whatever it might be.
So you've been here at our user conference. What excites you the most about what you've seen?
I think what clearly excites me the most about what I've seen is the workflow builder for AI. I strongly believe that in 5 to 10 years, EMRs will move from being sort of the central hub. They will still be the central hub in a way, but they don't create a lot of value in and of themselves. They're much more of a documentation system than an efficiency or value driver for any organization, in my opinion, with a few exceptions. Obviously, there are some areas where you can, but for the most part, every organization is going to have some custom workflows that they feel unlock value for them. For instance, at OrthoNebraska, we have a non-standard workflow for imaging, where the traditional workflow is physician places the order, imaging gets scheduled, and then it gets prior auth in between scheduling and actual occurrence. We do prior auth after scheduling, before scheduling, so that we can get patients in for same-day MRI, and we have like stat prior authorization on that. So
that is incredible.
I would say probably a good 25% of our MRIs are same-day MRIs.
That's fantastic. Your patients must love that.
It is, and it just makes the whole care process move faster, and that's one of the big value drivers for patients. It's hard to communicate how that value gets transferred in the patient's mind, but it's very important for what we do.
Well, that's fantastic. So tell us.
Sorry, I didn't close the loop on the other
Yeah.
on the AI thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the workflow builder, I think I'm envisioning a future where every organization has hundreds of custom AI-based workflows with more. Some will have more AI, some will be more basic decision tree things, but just the power of using Fire APIs plus if-then logic, large language models to go from unstructured to structured and back and forth, and then doing reading and write operations. That, I think, is the future of where everyone is going to be very soon.
That's well said. Well said. So, as a chief innovation officer, innovator, I'm always thinking about what are we doing well, and what should we continue to invest in, and what are new areas that we should be innovating. What advice would you have for Innovator?
I would say focus on what I just said. Like, make sure that you. I think there's a lot of pockets where AI can be successful. I will say revenue cycle is another
Which
that
we're
we've
investing in.
We've
Yeah,
talked a
yeah.
lot about today. I think revenue cycle is one of those areas that there's a lot of inefficiency in the entire process, and so that is ripe. But that all the more back to the workflow. Custom workflow builder of where that doesn't have to be just clinical. I mean, it can be any area of the organization. And so focusing on how you can unlock value by being low code, no code, while still having good governance around those workflows is where I think you need to encourage your customers to go. And some of them may be a little bit hesitant. They may be scared to go down that path, but I think need to be brave and see that that's really the best way to prevent this, I have to build it, buy it, whatever it is. It's going to really increase speed to value.
Well, listen, Bill, I really appreciate all the work that you're doing with Innovator, and I wish you all the luck. I think just hearing you talk about how your patients at OrthoNebraska are experiencing care differently than many, many places, I think is amazing. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. It's a great conversation.
Thank you.